YouTube, welcome to another one of my character guides. This time we'll be covering a 5-star sustain unit, Huohuo. So let's first get started with her kit. At level 90, she has really great stats for base HP and defense in comparison to the other abundance characters. Then she has 98 speed, which is the same as Natasha and Bailu. Finally, she has an high ult cost of 140. Her basic attack is a 4-hit single target attack based on her max HP that generates 1 skill point. Her skill is a blast or splash heal based on her max HP, meaning she can heal up to 3 allies at a time. Also, only the targeted or the middle ally will be cleansed off of 1 debuff. The healing multipliers are pretty high for both the middle and adjacent allies. At level 10, the ult regenerates energy for other allies that does not include herself, equal to 20% of their respective max energy. I've done some pixel testing and it seems that the energy gain is flat energy like Tingyun's ult, and it does not scale with energy recharge of the allies. It also increases their attack by 40% for 2 turns individually. Moving on, her talent grants a buff to herself known as Sacrificed Life after using her skill. This buff is tied to her own turns and will last for 2 turns. While the buff is active on her, each time an ally takes a turn or uses their ult, the acting ally gets healed based on Huohuo's max HP. Additionally, allies that have 50% HP or lower get healed once. The healing can happen any number of times before Huohuo gets 2 turns. To top it off, allies healed through this buff are cleansed from 1 debuff. The cleanse can be triggered up to 6 times and using the skill will reset the count. For trace level up priority, you may choose to level up skill, talent, and ult in any order as you wish depending on your needs. For example, since the healing from the skill is very good already, so you may want to get the ult up for better buffs to other allies. Then, her Ascension 2 trace enables the Sacrifice Life buff from her talent at the start of the battle that lasts for 1 turn, meaning this disappears after she takes her first turn if you do not skill. The Ascension 4 trace increases her CC resist chance by 35%. Her final Ascension trace regenerates 1 energy for her whenever the talent is triggered to heal allies. After all her trace nodes are unlocked, she gains a total of 28% HP, 18% effect res, and 5 speed. At last, the technique afflicts the surrounding enemies with Horror Struck. The enemies will flee away for 10 seconds after being afflicted. Then, entering battle with any ally will reduce the attack of all the enemies by 25% for 2 turns with a 100% base chance based on Huohuo's effect hit rate. To sum up, here's a table briefly describing her kit. Huohuo is a healer with HP scaling and also a buffer who wants to ult fast. So you may throw anything that goes in line with HP, healing bonus, and energy recharge. For the 4-piece sets, you may go 4-piece Passerby, Wind, or Speed. She may not be ulting very often, so 4-piece Wind and 4-piece Speed may not end up performing well. For 2-piece combinations, I personally like 2-piece Passerby as it provides 10% outgoing healing that cannot be obtained as a substat. And then you may go for 2-piece Speed or HP depending on the substats of your relics. Coming to the planar sets, you can choose between Fleet, Heal, and the Dream set depending on what your team would like more. Just make sure to meet the speed or effect res requirements. Then, energy sets like One Whack will depend on your exact build and the amount of energy you generate from her Ascension 2 and hits from enemies. I'll bring this up again in the Lightcone section. You ideally want outgoing healing on the body for more heals. HP percent as an alternate option if you don't have it. Speed is ideal for boots in spite of her talent being tied to her turns, as more speed just translates to better skill point economy for the team. If you are playing her skill point neutral, a slower Huohuo would mean the rest of your allies get more turns than her, which hampers the overall skill points available to the team. For Sphere, HP percent is the only choice. Finally, for the rope, ER is generally the way for faster ults. However, HP percent with specific light cone superimpositions, builds, and conditions will yield the same results. Assuming no additional energy recharge on Huohuo, you can 4-turn ult with ER rope by alternating between skill and basic attack, or with a skill and 3 basics if you do get hit once. You may also 3-turn ult depending on a lot of conditions. And again, her heals are more than enough without a HP rope. So overall, you want at least one effective speed more than the damage dealers. And after that, in substats, aim for as much HP and effectiveness as you can get. Even though she has on-turn cleanses for the team, you still don't want her to be delayed down the action order by CCs, making effectiveness still pretty good in such scenarios. Let's start with her signature light cone. At S1, it increases energy recharge by 12%. Further, when an ally uses their ult, the ally with the lowest HP percent is healed by 10% of the healed ally's max HP. Note that this is the ally's max HP and not Huohuo's max HP. Lastly, when an ally is healed, it increases their attack by 2.3%, which can stack up to 5 times and last for 2 turns. Next, the Bailu Light Cone has a high base HP with HP percent and outgoing healing in the passive, making it a good fit. Coming to the 4-star Light Cones, Perfect Timing is a great choice. It gives you effectiveness and outgoing healing for all the abilities. It's a lot better if you have superimpositions. Next is Post-Op. The outgoing healing here is only with the ultimate, but Huohuo doesn't heal on her ult, so this ends up doing nothing. For 4-turn ults, you may skill once every 3 turns, assuming you get hit, and if you do not care about the talents buff for 1 turn at E0. I honestly feel like losing this buff for 1 turn isn't critical at all. It's definitely not as bad as losing Fusion's Matrix. Sacrificing some uptime on the buff will make her skill point positive even at E0. Here's a table for energy requirements for 4-turn ults if it's 1 skill and 3 basics, which is the worst case scenario. Next up, we do have a new event S5 Light Cone that you can obtain in the upcoming patch. This LC at S5 increases max HP by 12%, and when Huohuo uses her skill, her outgoing healing is increased by 28%, which lasts for 2 turns. You may use Quid Pro Quo over the event Light Cone if you feel like your sustain is enough for the extra energy to your team. Shared Feeling is alright for the allies if you are playing her skill point neutral. Finally, the rest of the 3-star and 4-star Light Cones are decent alternate options that you could consider. Overall, since her healing is amazing already, other than her signature Light Cone, Post-Op is ideal for 4-turn ults to keep her skill point positive, Perfect Timing is great for building up effect res, Quid Pro Quo is nice for more energy, and Bailu Light Cone is alright for a little bit more damage, while the other Light Cones remain fair alternatives. Also, I'll be covering the team's part in the performance section. So let's move on to the Eidolons first. With E1, the duration of her talent's buff is extended by 1 turn. Additionally, speed for all allies is increased by 12% while the buff is active. Here you may simply go for 1 skill and 2 basics and repeat that. Or you may go for 1 skill and 3 basics into ult rotation with ER Rope and ER LC if you manage to get hit and don't really care about her talents buff for 1 turn. This makes her even more skill point positive. If you are considering investing further into Huohuo, I'd recommend this over her LC. Her E2 provides a revive mechanic while her talents buff is active. It revives an ally if they receive a killing blow and will restore 50% of their HP. This reduces the duration of the buff by 1 turn, and revives can happen a maximum of 2 times per battle. E3 and E5 increase levels of her traces. E4 makes it so while Huohuo heals a targeted ally with skill or talent, the less HP the targeted ally has, the higher the healing they receive. This is basically more healing for low HP allies. At last, when healing a target ally, E6 increases the ally's damage percent multiplier by 50% for 2 turns. To start off, her healing potential is incredibly strong, but it is tied to her skill that needs to happen on her turn, and it also requires 1 skill point. Due to her kit's design at E0, she'll have to be skill point neutral to keep a 100% uptime on her talent. But again, with an ERLC, you can make her skill point positive if you'd like. Then her ult provides an attack buff along with some energy regen. To have a good idea about the energy gain, it's a little bit better than a basic attack that you can get about every 4 Huohuo turns. With all this in mind, you may realistically place her anywhere you would like, but ideally you want to place her in teams that are not skill point intensive if you are planning to play her skill point neutral and which also benefit from attack. At a first glance, Kafka teams seem to fit this description the best. Kafka teams may not be very skill point friendly if you are spamming skill on Kafka and Asta every turn, but if you do manage to go skill point positive on Huohuo, this shouldn't be an issue. Other than that, she buffs multi-DPS comps pretty well. Also, she may pair well with upcoming characters like Hanya and possibly Sparkle. Lastly, she's going to be a great support for Argenti and future characters that similarly depend on energy and attack. Moving on, let's see how useful her cleansing is. First of all, she's a hard counter against shots due to continuous cleansing. She also does well against debuffs like Frozen, Outrage, Kafka's Domination, HP Block, and Stat Reduction debuffs. However, she is still susceptible to Imprisonment and Entanglement as they delay you down the action order and you need to wait for your turn or until another ally ults to get cleansed. To add briefly, I have gathered my thoughts in a pros and cons table as shown here. I'd like to point out that having no reliable one-shot protection may not be that big of a deal, as she's negating a lot of potential incoming damage through dots or other debuffs with her continuous cleansing and healing abilities. Also, she doesn't necessarily have to be skill point neutral as mentioned before. One small tip I have is that you may want to consider placing her on the edge of the team. This is because she is tanky due to her high HP, and you may want to heal the rest of the team that may not be as healthy with her skills. As for her performance in the overworld or SU, she doesn't rely on her technique or have some sort of stacking mechanic in her kit to deal with multiple waves, so she should perform very well even outside of MOC. I reckon her autoplay may not use skill every other turn and instead do it when needed. Finally, coming to her pull value, she is looking quite remarkable if you do not have a Luocha or Fushun. You may still consider her as a second solo sustain option in MOC if you did not pull both. And if you do have both, I strongly recommend saving up for 5-star harmonies that are coming up very soon. And that is going to be the end of this video. Thank you for watching.